प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजनीवती गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। ॐ आशिष्यशानो वृषभो न युध्मो घना घनः क्षोभनश्चर्षणीनाम् संक्रन्दनेन निमिषेण जिष्णुना युत्कारेण दुष्यवनेन धृष्णुना स इषुहस्तैः स निषङ्गिभिर्वसे सग्स्रष्टा स युध इन्द्रो गणेन बृहस्पते परिदीया रथेन रक्षोहामित्रागुम् अपबाधमानः गोत्रभिदं गोविदं वज्रबाहुं जयन्तमज्म प्रमुर्णन्तमोजसा बलविज्ञाय स्थविरः प्रवीरः सहस्वान् वाजी सहमान उग्रः अभिगोत्राणि सहसा गाहमानो धायो वीरश्शतमन्युरिन्द्रः इन्द्र आसां नेता बृहस्पतिर्दक्षिणा यज्ञः पुर एतु सोमः इन्द्रस्य वृष्णो वरुणस्य राज्ञ आदित्यानां मरुतागुं शर्धवुग्रम् अस्माकमिन्द्रः समृतेजुध्वजेष्वस्माकं या इषवस्ता जयन्तो उद्धर्षयमघवन्नायुधान्युत्सत्त्वनां मामकानां महागुंसि उपप्रेतजेता नरस्थिरावः सन्तु बाहवः अवसृष्टा परापदशरव्ये ब्रह्म सगुंसिता मर्माणि ते वर्मभिश्चादयामि सोमस्त्वा राजामृतेनाभिवस्ता यत्र बाणाः सम्पतन्ति कुमारा विशिखा इव प्रतिपूरुषमेककपालान्निर्वपत्येकमतिरिक्तं यावन्तो गृह्यास्मस्तेभ्यः कमकरं पशूनागुं शर्माचिशर्म शर्म मे यच्छैक एव रुद्रो न द्वितीयायतस्थ आकुस्ते रुद्रपशुस्तञ्जुषस्वैषते रुद्रभागः सहस्वस्त्राम्बिकया तञ्जुषस्वभेषजं गवेश्वाय पुरुषाय भेषजमथो अस्मभ्यं भेषजगुं सुभेषजं यथा सति सुगं मे यथा न श्रेयसः करद्यथा नो वस्य सः करद्यथा नः पशुमतः करद्यथा नो व्यवसाययाद उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृताद प्रतिपूरुषमेककपालान्निर्वपति एकमतिरिक्तम् एककपाला भवन्ते नाभिघारयते अन्तर्वचारिणकं रुद्रं कुर्यात् तद्धि रुद्रस्य भागधेयम् एषा वै रुद्रस्य दिगो रुद्रो वा अपशुकाया आहुत्यै नातिष्ठत यमेव द्वेष्टि यदि न द्विष्यात् न ग्राम्यान् पशून् हिनस्ति चतुष्पथे जुहोति अग्निवत्येव जुहोति सृग्येषा अन्तमेनैव होतव्यम् एष ते रुद्रभागः सहस्वस्राम्बिकयेत्याह तया वा एष हिनस्ति तयैवैनगुं सह शमयते यावन्त एव ग्राम्याः पशवः अवाम्ब रुद्रमतिमहेत्याह त्र्यम्बकं यजामः इत्याह उत्किरन्ते मोदे कृत्वा सजन्ते तादृगेव तत् अप्रतीक्षमायन्ते रुद्रस्यान्तर्हित्यै ये त्र्यम्बकैश्चरन्ते इयं वा अतिथिः बिभ्राट् बृहत्पिबत सौम्यं मध्वायुर्दधद्यज्ञपतावविह्कृतौ ॐ त्वमग्ने रुद्रो असुरो महो दिवस्त्वगं शर्धो मारुतं वृक्षैशिषे आवो राजानमध्वरस्य रुद्रगुं होतारगुं सत्ययजगुं रोदस्योः अग्निर्होता निशसादाय जीयानुपस्थे मातुः सुरभावलोके साध्वे मकर्देव वेदिन्नो अद्य यज्ञस्य जिह्वामविदामगुह्या अक्रन्ददग्निस्तनयन्यवद्योः क्षामारेरिहद्वेरुधः समञ्जन् त्वेवसो निपुर्वणेगहोदर्दोषावस्तोरेरिरे यज्ञियासः तुभ्यन्ता अङ्गिरस्तमविश्वा सुक्षितयः पृथको अस्यामतङ्गामभग्ने तवोत्यस्यामरयगुं रैवः सुवीरम् श्रेष्ठं यविष्ठ भारताग्ने द्युमन्तमाभरा सस्विधानस्तन्यतो रोचनस्थाभिर्नानदद्भिर्यविष्ठः आयुष्टे विश्वतो दधदयमग्निर्वरेण्यः आयुर्दाग्ने हविषो जुषानो घृतप्रतीको घृतयो निरेधे तस्मते प्रतिहर्यते जातवेदो विचर्षणे दिवस्परिप्रथमं यज्ञे अग्निरस्मद्वितीयं परिजातवेदाः शुचिः पावकवन्द्योऽग्ने बृहद्विरोचसे दृशानो रुक्म उर्व्याव्यद्यौ दुर्मर्षमायुश्रिये रुचानः आयदिशे नृपतिं तेज आनर्चुचिरेतो निषिक्तं द्यौरभीगे सतेजीयसा मनसा त्वोत उत शिक्षस्व वत्यस्य शिक्षो अग्ने सहन्तमाभरद्युम्नस्य प्रासहार्यम् त्वमग्ने पृतनासः गुंरयगुं सहस्व आभरा उक्षान्नाय वशान्नाय सोमपृष्ठाय वेधसे वद्माहि सोनो अस्यद्मसद्वा चक्रे अग्निर्जनुषाज्मान्नम् अग्न आयोगुं शिपवस आसुवोर्जमिषञ्जनः अग्ने पवस्व स्वपा अस्मे वर्चस्सु वीर्यम् अग्ने पावकरोचिषा मन्द्रया देव जिह्वया स नः पावकते दिवोऽग्ने देवागुं इहावः अग्निश्चुजव्रततमश्चुजर्विप्रश्चुजः कविः उदग्नेषु च यस्तव शुक्राभ्राजन्तैरते ॐ यो ब्रह्मा ब्रह्मणमुज्जभार प्राणैश्वरः कृत्तिवासाः पिनाकी तस्मै जुहोमि हविषा घृतेन विभ्राजमानः शरीरस्य मध्याद्रोचमानो घर्मरुचिर्यागाद समृत्युपाशानवनुद्य घोरानुहायुषेण घृतमत्तु देवः ब्रह्मज्योतिर्ब्रह्मपत्नीषु गर्भं यमादधात् पुरुरूपं जयन्तौ सुवर्णरम्भग्रहमर्कमर्चं तमायुषे वर्धयामो घृतेन श्रियं लक्ष्मीमौपलामम्बिकाङ्गां षष्ठीं जयामिन्द्रसेनेत्युदाहुः तां विद्यां ब्रह्मयोनिगुं स्वरूपामिहायुषे तत्पयामो घृतेन दाक्षायण्यः सर्वयोन्यः सुयोन्यः सहस्रशो विश्वरूपा विरूपाः ससो नवः सपतयः सयोध्या इहायुषेण घृतमिदं जुषन्ताम् दिव्यागणा बहुरूपाः पुराणा आयुच्छिदानः प्रमथन्तु वीरान् तेभ्यो जुहामि बहुधा घृतेन मानः प्रजागं रीरिषो मोद वीरान् एकः पुरस्ताद्य इदं बभोवर्यतो बभोवर्भवनस्य गोपाः यमभ्येति भवनगुंसां पराये सदा हविर्घृतमिहायुषे तु देवः वसोन् रुद्रानादित्यान् मरुतोऽधसाध्यान् रभोऽन्यक्षान् गन्धर्वागुश्च पितॄगुश्च विश्वान् भृगोन् सर्पागुश्चाङ्गिरसोऽध सर्वान् घृतं हुत्वा विहयाम शश्वतो अग्ने त्वन्नो अन्तमः उदत्राता शिवो भववरोध्यः तन्त्वा शोषिष्ठति दिवः सुम्नाय नूनमीमहे वसुरग्निवसुश्रवाः अच्छा नक्षत्युमत्तमोरयिन्दाः स नो बोधिश्रुधि हवमुरुष्यानो तस्त्वमस्मादु संज्ञानं विज्ञानं प्रज्ञानं जानदभिजानद श्रेयो वसेय आयत्सम्भोदं भोदम् ज्योतिष्मागुस्तेजस्वानादभगुस्तपन्नभितपन्न रोचनो रोचमानः शोभनः शोभमानः कल्याणः शतमानं भवति शतायुः पुरुषश्चतेन्द्रिय आयुष्येन्द्रिये प्रतिष्ठति।
वर्तमानं भवति सदा यः पुरुषेन्द्रिये
आयुष्येन्द्रिये प्रतिष्ठति.
Shall I give that? It is your wish. Be comfortable. Yes, 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 please. Yes, please. No, yes, you can switch off. Yes, please. That is the tradition. You both are, you know. Yes, yes, noble couple you are. That is the tradition, madam. Yes, yes, I will start. So this, I will put it on. Once I start, so I will give introduction and then you can start. Yes. నమస్తే శర్మ గారు కలుద్దాం రేపు కలుద్దాం మళ్ళీ గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ సో వెన్ ఆచార్య దేవో భవ అతిథి దేవో భవ the one who represents acharya, the one who represents the lineage, the one who represents the tradition, they are the gurus that carry on the legacy. Any legacy to continue, any tradition to continue, lot of sacrifices involves. Otherwise, for thousands of years, the lineages of yoga, what we learn, wouldn't have survived. My first guru, in 1977, in 78, so the Vishnu Devananda Maharaj, very dynamic, very favorite disciple of Swami Shivananda Maharaj, Dr. Kuppaswamy Iyengar. Among all, so 7 or 8 considered to be very good disciples of the Shivananda Swami Maharaj. One of the most dynamic and dynamite personality is the Vishnu Devananda Maharaj. When I went on our school behalf to the Rishikesh, that was a summer, the Vishnu Devananda Maharaj is looking for a place to construct, actually for Shivananda and for him, because this ashram in Muniki Reti, and we always loved Uttarakashi, anything that represents the Kashyapa dynasty, Uttarakashi and South Kashi, Kashmira, all these are Kashi, Gupta Kashi, they are the most sacred places. So Vishnu Devananda Maharaj is wanted, that is his, since the days he was initiated, and so he was working for an army actually basically, but he came in contact in Rishikesh, and he just like Shivananda Kuppaswamy Iyengar left his profession overnight, the same way Vishnu Devananda Maharaj left his profession, became full-time and learning, the favorite disciple of the Shivananda Maharaj. That's why, because he is well learnt, well studied in English. So Shivananda Maharaj was looking after, was thinking many foreigners were coming. So he encouraged him to be going abroad and spreading the spirit of the Shivananda Yoga. And unlike any gurus, the Shivananda Maharaj, each one of his disciples distinctly encouraged them. He never wanted a robot program to be executed. The one who worked in his ashram as accountant, chief accountant, the one who looked after the financial affairs, and he has sent Satyananda Maharaj to the Munger and to establish. In fact, Satyananda Maharaj was not interested, but the Shivananda Maharaj, similarly the Vishnu Devanandas, similarly Chinmaya mission today is so big, and each one of them, and today in the world famous, but the roots one has to remember. So in 1977 in summer, I was initiated by, so because the Swamis are there, so I was called, okay, so I was called, inko initiate karo. Shivana, it so happened Vishnu Devananda Maharaj came forward, I will initiate him. And he is the first one to initiate me into the mantra. It was around morning, 10 o'clock. I was initiated, so we went with my uncle. And by the time I opened eyes, it was 2 hours. And Vishnudev Manandraj did not disturb me. And then followed by subsequently, he has written a small letter and he sent me to Bihar School of Yoga to the Satyananda Maharaj. So my learning continued. So the Vishnudevananda Maharaj is the one who has given like a proper structure in abroad, like 12 asana structure, etc. And if one has shown asana practice properly to the world, so because only southern traditions, contemporary tradition, Krishnamacharya, who is also my guru, and his disciples, Pattabhi Joyas and Iyengar, they have really promoted the asana very well. But Shivananda Yoga is always very broad-based thinking. Vasudhaika Kutumbam world as one family. Very, very broad-based teaching. So that's why every part, every limb in yoga is well balanced. All my goal was to grow tall actually, to go to the Rishikesh, nothing else. Because the Swamiji came to Hyderabad. And so I served him as a volunteer. I love to serve the Swamijis and Gurus. He invited me to Rishikesh, I went. And so I asked Vishnu Devananda Maharaj whether I grow tall. I thought, because he's asana expert, so I wasn't sure. He said, definitely for sure you will grow tall. And that's how I was initiated. And that day itself he has written. So, I have to go back to, Canada and other countries. I am on a mission. So he came to see that place in Uttarakashi to establish, so a place where his final, so in fact the final body is, so Jala Samadhi is called, left in the waters. That is his choice actually. That is his favorite place. So whatever remained, whatever the world talks, but today, if we have to remember a properly organized lineage of Shivananda, not leaving the Shivananda name, maintaining as it is, and following the strict discipline, it is only the Vishnu Devananda Maharaj established in institutions. All over the world, he has established Vedanta centers. And it's not easy at all. That speaks of volumes of his greatness. And today it is handled by professionals, board of governors. Whoever went abroad, naturally they know how to manage the institution, irrespective of caste, creed, religion. They always preferred the tradition to continue, the disciplines to be maintained. So Naya Dam, very close to the heart of Shivananda, encouraged by actually the Shivananda Maharaj and the birthplace of the Vishnu Devananda Maharaj, Thiruvananthapuram. So, of course, the motherland, the place, in one way he has become very close to Shivananda because he is from Tiruchirappalli and he is from Thiruvananthapuram. So, soul meets, So the language, though it is not a barrier, but the one who can understand, the one who can carry forward the mission. So Nayar Dam went on to become very famous now in the world. So now the present, so the one who is representing the tradition, so where he is born. So Dr. Nataraj and his wife are here today. It is an honor actually, the only way we can honor our gurus is the one who is leading that. You see, the temple survive because of the priest. The priest is appointed by the God. Often we blame the priest, but it is the priest who holds the institution, who bathes every day. So the sanctum sanatorium, the one who upkeep the tradition, maintains is not easy at all. So where one is born and what is one education, all that one sacrifices just for the sake of selfless service to serve the humanity. The same spirit today we have, the one who represents the institution of Nayadam. Most popularly in the West, it is known as the Hatha Yoga tradition. Truly speaking, it is a much more broad-based. It is not simply Hatha Yoga means kriyas or pranayamas or asanas or taught. Because if you read any book of the Shivananda Maharaj or Vishnudevananda Maharaj, in 1978 only he released a book, on mantras and initiations actually, and very, very dynamic personality. And so he is the one who carried all those peaceful missions and all. Always in Rishikesh, the talk of Vishnudevananda continues. So all these great disciples of Shivananda Maharaj, always, each one of them has served, each one of them are incredibly distinct, incredibly great. My close association with Vishnudevananda Maharaj is very less because he hardly came to India. Or whenever he visited India, he is busily engaged, on a mission. But I am closely much more because he sent me to Satchidananda Maharaj. So I learned from Satchidananda Maharaj. He has given me, looking at that letter, he has given me the next room and where he used to stay at that young age. So today you are going to hear Dr. Nataraj, and who left, I think he is born, and we have already circulated to you. It's good to hear from him, how he started his journey and what made him to, so devote his life. As a noble couple, devoting the life is something very rare. You can understand. So many people every year get educated from the institutions of excellence in yoga, So it's better now the time. So let him speak. Whatever today I requested him, whatever comes from him is a product of Shivananda, product of Vishnudevananda Maharaj. Whatever comes from him is the tradition, So hearing that sound itself is incredible. The one who is practically serving, hearing from them itself is incredible. So today is the first day, as you all know, so told you 2 days workshop we have in our department officially, for which all our chief executives, so they love me, they like me, they give so all that freedom to me. So I invited, those original traditions which are more than 100-year-old, so the authenticity, the pramana, the standards of yoga, which are diminishing in the modern world, are much more important. So the one who are keeping them, it is better to learn from them. So now I request both, and so I request, as per the traditions also, the Patni always sits there like always Parvati sat at the lotus feet of the. Today is, yesterday I have sent Saubhagya Teej, one of the auspicious day for the married couple. So that's why I requested our priest to come and bless them, Ashirvachana. So today is a wife praying. The Parvati never missed every month, and in a year 3 times the Teej, so respecting the Shiva and for his teachings to be preserved, for his sound to be preserved. And today it so incidentally happened, he was initiated the name of Nataraja, so the Lord Shiva's name. So it is better now to hear from, on this auspicious day, better. I request, Dr. Nataraj, and to speak over whatever he has a freedom of time and whatever he wants to speak. He wanted to speak 5 fundamental aspects of the Shivananda teachings of yoga. So we would be honored. The number 5 is always very good, So Panchendriya you call, or so Panchatanmatra you call, or Karmendriya you call, or Panchabalani you call. Shraddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaki, Tarisham. Whatever the 5 you call. So 5 is a very close number. So Pancha Pandavas you call. 5 is very significant. In terms of, so in spiritual language, so it is not Pancha Kleshas of the Klishta, but also Aklishta. So we are honored today with his presence. And you will also hear him tomorrow live webcast from there, from our auditorium. They're a huge gathering, more than 600, 700 scientists from different department of scientists we invited. So they will be honored to hear them tomorrow, day after, and the 2 days, next 2 days. So now I request, so the director, the Nayar Dam, the Institute of the Shivananda, so started by Vishnu Devananda Maharaj. Thank you, sir, for honoring our request, because you do not know us, but you honored, we invited, and so we welcome with just with flower bouquet as per the tradition. The red flowers are for you. Yes, on behalf of all our students. We represent only the students, sir, And to the madam. This is a Parvati's Gauri, the yellow color. So, yeah, please. And now you can switch on your mic, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. You can leave.
Sure, sure.
Yes.
Om 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 Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavati Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I salute my gurus. Bolo Sadguru Shivananda Maharaj ki jai. Swami Vishnu Devananda Maharaj ki jai. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning or good day to everybody who's with us here on the program. First of all, of course, I would like to express my thanks and appreciation to our hosts, Dr. Kumar and Mr. Amarendra, and other people of this organization who have taken the time and given a lot of love and care to us to invite us for their program, and have treated us really, I would say, beyond royalty. So we really appreciate this opportunity. And more than that, of course, as Doctor was saying, the opportunity to represent our gurus, our teachers. It's always an honor to be able to do that and share their knowledge with others, which has helped us personally so much to move forward in life. And to have an opportunity to share that is one of the greatest gifts I think we could have, and blessings. So thank you so much, Doctor, for inviting us to be here with you and to share this with you. And I was really touched by your experiences with Dr. Swami Vishnu Devananda. I didn't know that. And I'm very honored to be here on his behalf. Thank you. And so as I mentioned to Doctor that I thought I would like just to explain Swami Vishnu's methodology of promoting yoga worldwide. As you've heard, Swami Vishnu Devananda was a disciple of Swami Shivananda. He joined him in Rishikesh when he was a young age of about 20 years old. And he spent some 10 years there in the ashram, Shivananda ashram, on the banks of the Ganga. And he said he, of course, learned many things there. And when he was initiated as a sannyasi, I think after 1 or 2 years, he said after his initiation, a lot of knowledge came to him, particularly about the Hatha Yoga. He was naturally just very talented in the Hatha Yoga. And Swami Shivananda appointed him as the main teacher, professor of the Hatha Yoga in his institution. He had started an institution called the Yoga Vedanta Forest Academy. And so that was how Swami Shivananda wanted to formally spread this knowledge in a very systematic and scientific way in this academy. And that academy is still running, Yoga Vedanta Forest Academy. They continue to run 2-month programs in yoga and Vedanta. And I can see that that organization was really the seed for Swami Vishnu Devananda's organization. In 1957, Swami Shivananda encouraged Swami Vishnu Devananda to travel abroad and to spread these teachings to people around the world. He said, go and teach because people are waiting. Yogis are coming up all over the world and they're waiting for the knowledge. So not only Swami Vishnu Devananda, but many other disciples he encouraged, Swami Satchidananda and many others went to different places around the world. I'm trying to remember, Sahajananda I think was in South Africa, and Swami Venkateshananda went to Australia and South Africa. So like that, they all took the message. But as we heard, each one of his disciples developed the knowledge in their own particular way and connected to people in their own particular way. So Swami Shivananda really was a Jagat Guru, you could say. His message went to all corners of the world. So Swami Vishnu Devananda was one such disciple, and apparently Swami Shivananda gave him 10 rupees and he said, go to the West, people are waiting. And Swami Vishnu said with that 10 rupees he went around the world many, many times, meaning with the blessings of his Guru. And throughout his life, he always kept Swami Shivananda in his mind, and he said, whatever I did was only possible because of Swami Shivananda's blessings. And to make that obvious, when he started his organization in 1959, I think, he started the organization in the name of Swami Shivananda. So it is called the Shivananda Yoga Vedanta Centers or organization. And many people confuse that this is part of the Rishikesh ashram. It's not. It's a daughter organization, you could say. So we have our own system of executive board and centers, etc. And I think essentially Swami Vishnu Devananda didn't, you could say, adapt, but he presented the teachings in a way that was understandable by people outside of India, particularly in the West. So he arrived in America in 1957. And he was only, 29 or 30 years old. And although he had some experience with foreign people in Rishikesh, but he was coming to a new land on his own without money, and he had to do something. So it was not a small challenge, no doubt. And but with the blessings and support of people and his own guru, he was able to start teaching very quickly. And by 1959, he had started a yoga center in Montreal, Canada. And within 1 or 2 years, he had started an ashram outside of Canada called the Yoga Camp, which is now our international headquarters in Canada. So Swami Vishnu Devananda studied the Western culture, and he quickly understood that people there are much more practically orientated, not so much necessarily into the philosophy, but more into the practical life. And so he developed a system called the 5 Points of Yoga to help people to develop a yogic lifestyle. So as you all know, yoga is not just a physical practice, it's not just a philosophy either, it's a way of life, right? It's a way of life, and from a yogic point of view, we always consider ourselves on three levels: the physical body level, the mental, emotional level, and then ultimately you could say the spiritual karmic level. So we are living life on all these 3 different levels continuously. So each one of these levels needs to be improved for our spiritual evolution. We cannot just focus on one aspect. We can't just focus on the physical body and forget about the mind and soul. Alternatively, we can't just focus on the mind and forget about the body and our spiritual growth. And conversely, we can't just focus on our spiritual growth and forget everything else. So all of these three levels have to be kept in balance, and they support each other. Ultimately, of course, the ultimate point of the yoga is what you call moksha, or liberation, to go and transcend these levels altogether. And it's a process, of course. And in this process, we have to work with these three levels, or what we call three bodies: the Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karana Shariras. So, how did Swamiji promote a yogic lifestyle considering all these factors to people who really didn't really understand maybe much more than the physical body or the mind? In the West, as we know, it's a very materialistic culture. So only what is observable and measurable and scientifically is generally accepted as real. Anything that is not scientific is not accepted, generally speaking. So how to connect people to yoga when they have this approach? So he understood that he was looking and studying the society, and he also saw that people all mostly had their own vehicles, their own cars, which was not like India, of course, in 1957, and that people often understood their own car much better than they understood their own body and mind. So he developed the 5 points of yoga, how to take care of your body, mind, soul complex. And he said the starting point, of course, is your physical body. Your first priority, even as a spiritual seeker, is to make sure that you are as healthy, physically healthy as possible. Because without this body, we cannot do anything in the life. We cannot do proper sadhana, we cannot work, we cannot interact and grow. So our first priority is to keep physical health. And as we know, yoga offers a lot of things, techniques and practices to keep us healthy. So he said, well, just like you have to look after a car, you should also look after yourself. And so when you have a car, what are some of the essential things you need to think about? So for example, if you buy a new car, after the first 1,000 kilometers or so, the garage says you should take it for a service, right? And what is a service? Service means, of course, checking all the parts, but one of the most important things in the service is to lubricate the moving parts, and particularly the engine, change the oil, so that the car is running smoothly. So that was the first point, proper lubrication. And from our point of view, from our human point of view, our body is the vehicle, and we have many moving parts. All the moving joints, for example, and other organs, they're all very dynamic and in a state of motion and activity. So how to keep them running smoothly and efficiently? And we call that proper exercise. And the proper exercise in yoga, of course, is the practice of yoga asana. So the yoga asanas are very simple exercises, very unique exercises, but with the least amount of effort, we're able to keep the body flexible, mobile, and active and energized. So really, there's no other form of exercise that matches the yoga asana for its benefits, its overall benefits. So we call that the first point, proper exercise for lubrication. And if you're doing the asana regularly, you find that your body will be mobile and generally quite energetic until the end of your life. So that was the first point. So just to recap, he said, think of the body as your vehicle. Just as you have a car, so you have a body, the soul has a vehicle called this physical body. And we can think of our life like a long journey. A spiritual journey, really. Ultimately, everybody wants freedom, everybody wants liberation in their heart of hearts. Everybody has that common goal. So our life is like a journey towards that freedom. And to go on any journey, you need a vehicle. So if you had to go on a long journey, you would like to make sure your vehicle is running well and maintaining it well. So likewise, through our life journey, we should maintain our vehicle. And eventually, of course, every vehicle will get old. No vehicle is going to last forever. Generally, a car will last 10, 15, maybe 20, 25, 30 years. After that, generally, it's put in a museum. Or, of course, most vehicles will just get destroyed and recycled. So likewise, our body will come slowly, it is going to break down. It's made of materials, so like all materials, it's going to change and break down. So, but when your car is too old, what we do, we recycle it and we get a new car and we continue using the car for our journeys. So likewise, for the soul, eventually this physical body will break down, and what will happen? We'll call it death. Basically, death means recycling of this physical body. So all the 5 elements which you mentioned will get recycled in the nature, and new bodies will be made from the same 5 elements. And that soul will take on a new vehicle, a new body. And this is the concept of reincarnation, that the soul continues its spiritual life, life after life in different bodies, and continues our journey in our spiritual path. So again, recapping, even though we say this physical body is not the end-all and be-all of our life, it's a very limited part of our spiritual life, but at the same time it's a very important part. And as I said, one needs to have a body to do something in this physical life, and so we as I say, we give our first priority to this physical body to make sure it is running properly, and therefore we can do our work and sadhana and whatever else we're going to do. So just to put it into that perspective, that this physical body is not the end-all and be-all of who we are. And of course this is a very important concept in our modern life, which is very materialistic. We think, you start when you're born and your existence is finished when your physical body stops. Not at all. From the yogic point of view, that is nothing. It is just a very small part of your total experience. So that is the first thing, how to maintain the vehicle, is proper exercise for lubrication. Now we come back to the car, how to maintain the car. Second point is called proper breathing. This is another very important practice in yoga, pranayama and breathing techniques. Why? What do they represent in the car? What is the breathing important for? So of course, breathing is important for life. We need to keep breathing for our life. It's essential function. And why do we breathe? We breathe to get oxygen into our body. Oxygen is the very special chemical we need for our life processes, the chemical processes. And so in the car, where do the car get its energy? So it ultimately comes from electrical energy, that's the battery. From that battery we get electricity. From that electricity we can ignite the fuel, combustion, and then the car will actually start to work. So we say the second point is proper breathing for, just like a proper battery, you need a fully charged battery in your car. If your battery is flat, what happens? You can have the fuel, you can have everything, but you turn the key, nothing will happen. It will not run. So we need to keep charging the battery. The battery needs to be kept charged. So likewise, the yogis found that if you can control your breathing, you can charge your battery, internal battery. We call that energy prana, of course. It's not exactly, it's a form of electricity is a form of prana. We can say prana is a universal energy. And the main way we can affect our prana is through our breathing. So learning how to control the breathing can raise your levels of energy, prana. Just like you can charge a battery with electricity, you can charge your own energy through pranayama. So that is the second point. Proper breathing is very important to have a fully energized body. And of course that also has an impact on the mind. The mind is a form of prana only. So automatically the pranayama exercises have a very positive effect on the mind, energizing effect. That was point 2, proper breathing. Point 3 was called proper relaxation. Proper relaxation. So we take relaxation for granted. In fact, sometimes we think it's a luxury that if you have time to relax, I can maybe go on holiday, or I can go out with friends, or have a hobby even. Sometimes these are a luxury for people that don't have the time to relax. They're always busy working, and if they're not working, they have other issues to deal with. So we tend to think of relaxation as something very, almost optional. But actually, Swamiji explains that relaxation is essential for our health. If we do not know how to relax properly, we are going to have problems. And just like the car, if you look at a car, if you're going on a long journey, it's going to keep running, of course, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 hours. Sometimes people are driving even more than 12 hours. And what's happening? As the car is running, it's generating a lot of heat, isn't it? And that heat is a lot of heat, and tremendous amount of combustion is going on. And if that heat has to be managed, if you don't dissipate that heat, get rid of that heat, what will happen to the car? Well, very quickly that car is going to burn out. The engine is going to burn out, and the whole car will cease. So likewise, we say, as we are going through life, we are also creating a lot of heat, or we are exposed to a lot of heat. And what do we call that heat in our life? We call it stress, basically. And as you know, everyone has stress. The fact that we are alive means that we are under some stress to survive. At least we need some food, some shelter, some basic things in life just to have a normal life. We need these things. So we're all under stress for survival at some level. And of course, in our more complicated, developed life, the stresses can even get more and more. You okay, Kalyani? Shall I switch off? You okay? So as I was saying, stress is very much a part of life. We cannot think that we can lead a completely stress-free life, no matter who you are. Even the greatest saints, no doubt, will be exposed to some kind of stress. And I can say even living in an ashram, there will be stress. It's everywhere. So to be stress-free, we cannot think that, okay, I can just try to avoid all stress. It's not really possible. We can try to minimize, to have a well-balanced life, but we cannot really avoid it. So what is important is how do we deal with stress? Just like the car has to deal with the heat, it has a cooling system, a radiator. So through that cooling system, the car is able to dissipate the heat, and the engine is continuing to run smoothly. So likewise, we need a system how to dissipate the stress from our body-mind system so that we do not burn out. Okay? And as we know, stress does cause burnout, and many people are suffering because of stress. Either physically or mentally, we have problems because of stress. So we need to know how to deal with stress so that it doesn't burn us out. Just like the car has a cooling system, we need some sort of cooling system. So in the yoga, again, it has many techniques how we can relax and not get affected by stress. Because when we face any stress in life, certain changes are happening inside our body. Our body automatically responds through the autonomic nervous system to stressful impulses, and it causes certain changes inside our body. And these changes ultimately end up in what we call dis-ease. In fact, the word dis-ease means we're not at ease, we're not relaxed. So we develop dis-ease. So if you speak to any doctor, they'll tell you that the majority of diseases are related to stress and lifestyle problems. So how to deal with the stress? So the starting point from a yogic point of view is actually the physical position called Shavasana. Shavasana is a special asana, usually everybody's favorite asana, because it helps us to relax completely. So Shavasana is what we call, for proper relaxation, for cooling system, we call it Shavasana, using the Shavasana. And if you ever go for yoga classes, you'll see Shavasana is always part of the class. And that gives, I would say, is the most important factor that gives us the benefit of a yoga class, is the fact that we can actually be still and just lie down, be still, be quiet, but be conscious. There's a difference between Shavasana and being asleep. Of course, sleep is nature's way for us to relax, to stop, but it has limited effect. Shavasana has much, much more benefit because you are also conscious while you're doing it, so you are appreciating the effects on your mind as well. So that is the third point, called proper relaxation, Shavasana, for just like a cooling system in the car. So that was the third point. Now we come to the fourth point. The fourth point equals the proper fuel. So of course when you have a car, not only you check the battery and the oil system, but you also check, you should put the right fuel. You know, if you put the diesel in the petrol engine, it'll get damaged. If you put petrol in the diesel engine, it'll also get damaged. So likewise, our body needs proper fuel. What is the fuel for our body? We call it, of course, the food. We call it proper diet. In fact, food is more than just fuel. Of course, we take food to burn it, to give us the energy. But even more than that, our body is made of the food we eat. And therefore, in yoga, the body is called Anna Maya Kosha. Anna Maya Kosha, Kosha means a sheath that is made of Anna. Anna means food. So essentially, every chemical we have in this body, every carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, calcium, phosphate, whatever chemicals we have in this body, essentially, most of it has come from the food we've eaten only. In fact, you could say all of it has come from the food. So this body is an incredible chemical engineering plant. It's able to take rice, potatoes, tomatoes, whatever you eat, and it's able to convert it into muscles, bones, hair, skin, connective tissues, blood. In fact, the Ayurveda system describes all the 7 tissues. They're all just transformations of food. So when we understand that this body is only derived a chemical engineering process of food, we start to appreciate that actually food has a direct impact on my body. So depending on the quality of my food, it'll affect the quality of my body. It's a very clear observation. So the yoga system, yogis have advocated a yogic diet since the beginning. It's basically what you call a lacto-vegetarian diet, traditionally. Of course, even the milk is being challenged by many people, and quite justifiably so, for different reasons. But essentially a vegetarian diet is the healthiest diet for the human body. And we call that the proper diet, vegetarian diet. Sattvic, of course. Sattvic means a pure diet, because you can also have unhealthy vegetarian food also. But it should be healthy vegetarian food. And that is like the fuel for the body. And this will help a lot to maintain health in your body and, of course, even on the mind, because food also has an impact on the mind. According to the guna, tamas, rajas, sattva, it will have different effects. And then even on our spiritual evolution, I can just mention that for our spiritual evolution, one of the most important yamas, ethical codes, is the yama called ahimsa. In fact, it's considered #1 moral code, ahimsa, non-injury. To not cause injury to yourself, maintain your own health, not cause injury to other living beings around you, other people, animals, and ultimately to the whole world, environment, the ecology. So vegetarianism is one of the most powerful things we can do in our life to take care of ourselves, and also not to cause suffering to other animals, and ultimately also to help the ecosystem. We're all worried about global warming now. It's becoming more and more pressing issue. And all the scientists are telling us the one most important thing we can do personally, individually, to help combat the global warming is to change our food habits, to go vegetarian, because animal-based food, including milk, puts a big price on the environment, or I think a carbon footprint is the terminology. So if we make that personal choice to go vegetarian, we are doing a lot towards protecting the ecosystem and slowing down the global warming process. So that is something we can all do, and it's part of the yogic culture to be vegetarian. So that is what we call proper diet, vegetarian diet. So we have covered 4 points of the vehicle. We've covered the lubrication service, we've covered the electrical system, energy, we've covered the cooling system, and we've covered the fuel. Now the last point, 5th point, is not directly about the car, but who's responsible for the car. So ultimately we call that the driver. There should be a driver who's going to take care of the vehicle, who's using the vehicle, and make sure that you're putting the right fuel and maintaining the battery and the oil, everything. So the question is, who is the driver of this physical body? What is the driver of this physical body? So ultimately we can understand it is the mind. It's our mind that actually controls our body and controls our actions and so on, and creates our karmas also. So the fifth point is really for our mental health, actually, and we call that a proper driver. Proper driver. And from the yogic point of view, how do we improve our mental health? So Swamiji identified two factors, what he calls positive thinking and meditation. Positive thinking and meditation. They're not exactly the same. By positive thinking, we're talking about philosophy, our understanding about life and our perspective on life. And in our tradition, we follow the Advaita Vedanta philosophy. It's not the only philosophy, of course, but it's considered one of the most pure philosophies as propounded by Adi Shankaracharya. So we're in the Shankaracharya lineage, and that's the philosophy we follow. So that is the positive thinking, to have the right perspective on life, which basically means looking at the questions, who am I, who am I in essence, and what is the world around me, and what is my relationship with the world, and what is beyond the world, what is the God or Ishvara, and what is my relationship with God. These are the questions of philosophy, and the more clarity we have about these questions, the more peace of mind we will have, and the more positive our life will be, that we are acting in a purposeful way. But to do this, of course, we need a good functioning mind, a mind that can be stable and focused. If the mind is not focused, we cannot really ask these questions. Who am I? Who is God? What is the world? And what is my relationship with the world? Our mind will not be able to look at these questions if the mind is very unstable. So that's the second part, called meditation or dhyana, as described by Patanjali. He describes in the Yoga Sutras very clearly, step-by-step process, how we can stabilize our mind, and then ultimately how we can use our mind in the most efficient way for our spiritual evolution. So, and that mind can then be applied to these questions in a very productive way. So that's a positive thinking and meditation aspect for a proper driver. So as you can see, these 5 simple things, Swamiji said, you know, even if you just do one of these things, you will definitely get some positive effects. So even if you only do the yoga asana regularly, you'll feel a change. If you even just do pranayama, you'll feel a change. If you just become vegetarian, you'll notice the positive changes, not physically, mentally, and spiritually. And if you practice meditation, if you study philosophy, you'll definitely also experience the positive effects. If you can do all 5 of these things together as a lifestyle, the effects will be that much stronger and that much more powerful and transforming you more and more quickly. And of course, I can attest to, both of us can attest to that. We try to follow these things on a regular basis, and it definitely changes the whole quality of our life, taking it from a low energy to a much higher energy, where we can appreciate life from a different perspective, a more yogic perspective. So these are the 5 points of Swamiji. I don't know if you'd like to, should I say anything more about it? Could I have a small amount of water?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem.
Open.
Yeah, no problem.
Water spilled out. Yes.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
Yes. Is that okay?
Surely, sure.
Yeah, you select the
This is okay for me. So, Dr. Kumar, anything more we'd like to ask?
What made you to actually, so to join in yoga? I want to know actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, we are we're not Indian, essentially. Well, not born in India, but we both lived in India for over 20 years now. So we probably lived more in India than any other place in our life. And I can say that, yeah, it's our blessings to have this opportunity to serve our gurus, to be connected to a guru in the first place.
Yes.
To have a connection.
Yes.
and then have the opportunity to actually be able to serve.
Yes.
That there are no other issues in our life,
Yes.
that you have that
Yes.
freedom. That's another great blessing. And then certainly I think the third blessing is the opportunity to be able to live in India for such a long
Yes.
time,
Absolutely.
which is not easy for many people
Yes.
to come here and to stay. So we've experienced all these three blessings, and I can say only from our Guru's grace.
Yes.
And personally, as you know, I grew up in Africa, in Zimbabwe. My parents are Italian background, but they immigrated to Africa. And I was born there, and I had my education there. And after graduating from my education, I did spend some time in the UK, working in the NHS there. And but that was a really challenging time, actually, for me personally. And also the change of culture from what I was used to in Africa to Europe was quite different, much more demanding and career-orientated. And I felt that it was taking too much of my time and energy, and I felt I needed more time and energy for my own self-development. So that was when, incidentally, I started going for yoga classes. And fortunately, we have one yoga center in London.
Yoga campus or try yoga?
It's a center, Shivananda Yoga Vedanta Center in
Sure.
Putney, South London.
Yeah.
So I was doing my yoga, I did a beginner's course there. Although I can say my first exposure to yoga was actually much earlier. My first exposure to yoga was through my father, actually. So he was learning and practicing at home by himself through books. And I remember joining him as a kid, maybe 5 or 6, trying these asanas. He showed me many things, Uddiyana Bandha and things like that,
Wow.
and the kriyas. So that was my first, and it was a very nice experience as a child.
Very nice.
But then it came back in my midlife around 30, 33. And then, of course, we offer a training program called a Teacher's Training Course, a 1-month program that Swamiji developed in 1969. So a very sort of residential, intensive package to really get people to feel that discipline of yoga in their day-to-day life.
Yes.
So in 1 month, they can really get a hands-on experience. And that has really helped change many people's lives, this TTC program that Swami Vishnu developed. So I did that in 1997, and incidentally, I came to Naya Dam, India. It was my first visit to India in 97. I never thought of coming to India, really. And after doing that, I was really quite touched because I could see all the positive changes in myself, physically, mentally, and once I started to understand the Vedanta philosophy, it really opened my mind to the meaning of life, actually.
Yes.
To really, what am I doing
Yes.
here, and what I
Yes.
felt something was missing, but the Vedanta very clearly gave me a picture of really what it's all about.
Yes.
And there's no mystery here.
Yes.
There's a very clear purpose to the life and what you should do and how you should do it.
Yes.
So that really made an impact. So I essentially gravitated towards the organization even when I went back to London. And I stayed as a volunteer. And fortunately, I was asked to come to our center in Delhi. We had a center there. So I spent some time in our center in Delhi for about 6 years. And then in 2003, I was transferred from Delhi to Naya Dam. And that's where we have stayed. And that's also where I met Kalyani. We were in Delhi for some time working there. And then she also was transferred to Naya Dam. And then in 2009, we got married. And I'm very happy about that.
Yes,
She's a
yes.
great support and a guide. And
Yes, it's nice actually.
Yeah.
But actually, so what the first advice given to me by actually Vishnu Devananda is he told Kumar, so go out, so learn as much you can learn. So don't stay here. That's the first advice given to me.
Okay.
And he said, go until you find a guru who can teach you the technology of complete liberation. That's how he sent me to Satyananda Saraswati. And Satyananda Saraswati, as you know very well, about, so Tantra systems, much more propensity, like Yoga Nidra. We
Yes.
together actually at that time.
Right.
Though I was a boy, I was assisting him. That was in
Okay.
1978, the first book, Dynamics of Yoga, released by. So I spent. Then he took me to Upper Matang and the Nepal border.
I see.
Actually, V20, we went in it, special Theravada. And
Okay.
then I was introduced to the monks there
Okay.
and lamas, and then he came back. He said, you further continue your journey.
Okay.
And then we went in to explore like the samadhis and but
Okay.
seriously, as you said, at one point of time, the life is all about Vedanta, self-realization, self-actualization, Shuchi Ashuchi Vicharana. So what is Sukha Dukkha Vicharana, Nitya Anicca Vicharana, what is Atma Anatma Vicharana. So what is discriminated knowledge, what is pure, what is impure.
Yes.
What is, which we ignorance is that, what is impure, we think it as a pure. And, so we eat and we indulge in happiness. Aham Brahmasmi, like in ignorance, all our happiness is, indulgence and which consumes more oxygen, etc. Actually, that's how. So, Nitya, Anicca, Vicharana, what is pure, impure, what is impermanent, what is permanent, So, this is basically Shankaracharya's methodology.
Yes.
Went on to, so finding, Buddhist traditions and all. So, what we teach here is exactly, so as you have pointed out, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, 5 principles, 3 principles. The methodology of asana, when we take asana. So, because having learned from Shivananda, basic level, not basic level, that should be enough. As you said, the same example we use, like vehicle and, the number of moving parts. As the number of moving parts increases, the maintenance increases.
Right.
The amount of the maintenance it requires, so like cortisol and, melatonin balance, so vehicle is driving, so but in a workshop, the car is at rest, so then repair can be done. So our system, like 12 hours we are designed for cortisol activity, but the most important, like night sleep, so where IGF, growth hormones and all cell repairing systems are, so are happening. So this car is very well sophisticated. So, and as you said, ahara, what we call, so it is a Krishnamacharya's Tibetan methodology. Ahara, vihara, vyavahara, vichara, achara, grahachara. The same principles, just little bit more elaborated. So the food, so is a very important aspect. We talk about the nutrition little bit more deeper because we are into the much more deeper at molecular level interactions. So we find actually nutrition as a means of cure. The diet and nutrition, that's a basic philosophy. So, so because where we fail to understand today is the importance of the balanced diet approach, like protein and carbohydrate, how exactly we have to calculate and what it is coming, so now earlier days, now it is all gene manipulated, hybrid varieties, so which are designed basically to allow us to grow quickly, to die quickly. Anything that grows quickly allows to die. So because you take wheat or you take rice, everything lifespan is reduced, basically, So as you said, milk, it's all about hormones and it is all about the way it is, So all these are practical, when we explain scientifically. So ahara, we talk a lot about, and we give them specifically how many calories, how to calculate, and then yes. And then vihara means why yoga as in a physical exercise? Because in the West, when we go, lot of competition. You say, for example, now gym culture and whatnot. So in yoga, how it is, like the Krishnamacharya gives a clear instruction, like Srushti Krama call means endurance. What is the power? What is the endurance? In yoga, how the heart, so like sun salutation, the Surya Namaskar, so how gently we try to, cause an eccentric stretch based, so to increase the mitochondrial density, to achieve the required VO2 max, achieve the saturation, so that, we talk about conservation of like prana, so about at much more deeper level, we talk all pranayamas, so like Northern Kapalabhati to Bhastrika's to like external breathing techniques, internal respiratory techniques. So system like Prakritika, Vaikritika. So because these are explored in Himalaya, we went and learned ashram to ashram and so categorized like sectional breathing techniques, like so Vedic pranayamas, non-Vedic pranayamas, and so Surya Bedi, Chandra Bedi to so internally how to balance them, sectional breathing techniques. And how the importance of, so checking like in the night rest heart rate, we emphasize, whether it is coming down or not, as you said, stress. So how to measure the stress, so it is the best is the rest heart rate, how your rest heart rate, is it coming down or not, whether you are asana or a pranayama or meditation, whatever you are doing. So there has to be a pramana, there has to be standards of the measure. If I tell them your heart stops at the 4th samadhi, 3rd samadhi, difficult for them to comprehend. So whether they are making progress, So the modern scientific tools, the systems, we try to emphasize very clearly that, So check, today you joined in this course, what's your rest heart rate? Monitor every day. And they will find, it comes down to 55, 60 and slowly 40. So if you really progressed much more deeper level, it comes to 20. Only by means of yoga it is possible. That then indicates how much less oxygen we are consuming. And we talk about meditation a lot. And about, of course, as you said, Sushupta Avastha to Turiya Avastha to we talk about Shavasana as awakened state like Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra also is a tantric technique basically. We go much little bit Dharana it is called actually. So Samyama it is what Patanjali talks. So Dharana is just observation inside from top to down, part by part. Again, it is not like a muscle relaxation technique what we today talk about. So these yogis have given different stotras, the sound which is more important, Vedic sound. So those stotras are, each one of them has certain frequency, certain wavelength. And when we lie down, it's like a lullaby in the night. So when you listen like before lunch or completely de-stresses, you can see significance of that. Yato mano yati tatra brahma, that's how the Yajnavalkya initiated. So dhyana, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So the three together samyama. So self-observation inside. Simple observation, the field of observation, like Patanjali talks about. So that gives a methodology. So the third and fourth chapter is mostly the exploration, as you said, Vedanta, Viccha, removing, using the method of the observation. So you can see the significant changes at the behavioral level, Vichara, Achara, and naturally at the gene expression level, when the change comes, because gene we cannot change, but gene expression can be changed, like epigenetic program, yoga has a most like yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Like in Yogachara tradition, it is much more detailed explained, basically when you go into the yoga or yoga chittas, etc. So then we go to that level of that, and then permanent behavioral changes, the grahachara, as you said, this body is, all elements will dissolve, but where do we go, at the end of the day? The soul journey about. So what is exactly the liberation process, What is the difference between a Sabija Samadhi and Nirbija Samadhi? How to qualify them? Because in this world, everyone will say, so this is a technology. That's what Vishnudevananda told. You don't stop, you first go out, learn properly. So how these behavioral changes will come? What is the method of samadhi? What is the method of kaivalya, liberation? So what is the precise difference between sabija and nirbija, or you call savikalpa or nirvikalpa, what we call? So this is, which is very, very important, because behavioral changes come, it is not just for ability to keep the sense dose in one place, or because conscious, subconscious, unconscious can be kept with you. Anything you like, an object you give, it will stay together. But the vairagya is, if we are successful without feeding anything, if we can keep them together. So that is the freedom. Wisdom actually. That's what we emphasize, the choicelessness or whatever you call. So our vairagya, tapata vairagya, whatever call, abhyasa etu kaunteya, abhyasa vairagya abhyantan nirodha. So what we talk about, it is all clearly laid down principles. Like when we go into the deeper level, what is Nicha? As a Buddha teaches, whether our, so Shankaracharya teaches or Yajnavalkya teaches, it is at the end it is the same. Actually, the philosophy, the core philosophy when we go. The methodologies are missing. So what all my journey in 35, 40 years, I never wanted to be a teacher, frankly speaking, because it is my personal journey. And only when I had an accident also, even I recovered using the yoga, because I learned from Krishnamacharya. So like, so Sushti Krama, there's a clear criteria, like strength-based exercises, the Krama, how you apply your asana, how you stretch it, so, and then you call alignment and balance, which is very, very important. As you said, body of stability, yoga is all about conservation of energy. As we move away from the body of stability, the oxygen consumption increases. That's what we emphasize. There's a precise difference between yoga. But are we respecting these planes, sagittal plane movements, frontal plane movement, transverse planes? So how to conserve the energy? That particular aspect is picked up by Iyengar, and he propagated in the world, for example. But Krishnamacharya is like Shivananda, he's a compendium of the all kramas. So how much you have to work with the heart, how much you have to work with the muscle metabolism, how much to cause anabolic action. So ultimately to achieve the ketogenic body or yogic body, so just with one fat molecule in a zero resistance we can produce 470 ATP molecules basically. That is the whole concept of the yoga. So how to achieve the zero, minimizing the resistance and slowly achieving that status. So that is what so we Adhyatmika Krama, alignment and balance, then it's called Adhyatmika Krama, means zero resistance practice. So that is in a Chikitsa Krama, means therapy ultimately. So any misalignments are there, imbalances are there in the body, in the mind, all these things will vanish when we really practice in the yoga is a zero resistance. Yoga is without any resistance and free. So every joint, every mind, at every level, at cellular level, it is all the DNA surviving. As you said, the stress is the driving factor for the DNA to survive. But so the whole evolution is to make the stress zero. But right now we consider stress as a consumption, as a means of removing the stress basically. So the whole concept in yoga is to make the stress zero basically. How to make the stress zero? Oxygen consumption zero, how to minimize it. So that is how Adhyatmika Krama, so is zero resistance practice. Whereas the meditation is the absolute way of achieving it. But even asana, pranayama, all these techniques, whatever we practiced, so the same philosophy, so the fuel, so all these principles so are a must today.
Universal,
Yes, and you have precisely the 5 points. So they are very, very important, and we really train them. So little bit at the deeper level because they come from different background, the students, and so it is not because yoga is a science we promote mostly. Because what happens once you explain in terms of the science, so for example, so all elementary particles of Vaisheshika, when you go at that level, so they have the duality basically. So if your observer is there, it will behave like a particle. If there is no observer, it will behave like a wave. So all our energy goes only in that, so the free radicals or whatever we call it. So we bring whatever the contemporary research is done, evidence-based is there. For everything we try to explain them scientifically so that people really appreciate the spirit of the yoga. Otherwise, it becomes like a, another, a religious,
mystical thing.
Yes, so that's why mostly we use completely scientific language because we come from the scientific background.
Right.
And all my learning, we always compared with this and used because they told never make it a livelihood. So I went on pursuing my studies. So I went on pursuing this as a parallel. Never at the cost of one other. In that way, so the life even today, our work-life balance, our business, and my profession. And this is a passion every day, so we could balance it like you have balanced too, so we have balanced and practically. And frankly speaking, I tell them, first you ask, in last, except when I met with an accident, so far I never went to the doctor, not even a day. I tell them always, whether are we fit or not? When I talk about restaurant rate, what is my restaurant rate? How healthy I am at 5 levels, at the 5 kosha level. So it is all our, so our way of living and our way of handling all these things, it is not no more a world of escapism. So go into the Himalayas, we'll get, that is much more stressful, not what many people understand is.
Right.
Yes, so what is fascinating is, so like as you said, you have devoted your life and this is how the yoga traditions continue. And the people like you, so bring the scientific spirit. Just for an example, you used like a car, for example.
Yeah.
So people can relate it, can understand it.
Yeah.
Because we go a deeper level, oxygen as a, so as a, everything in the car, the tire pressure to, so the combustion. And it is all about conservation of oxygen. It's not about calories or fat.
Yeah.
Either we can use the number of calories we are consuming or number of the amount of oxygen. So both are the one end of the cinemas, prana, whatever we call it, is absolutely. So the yogis, so thousands of years, what they have discovered is something amazing. That system, this system can achieve. We have demonstrated also in my guru, so is a Kumaraswamy, one of the, so in the traditions. And in Bihar, when I went, so I was introduced to Kapilashram by the Shivananda, by Satyananda Saraswati. So that is called force samadhi, where you can stop your heart basically. So that is self, so DNA, our system can achieve that level of, stress zero. So DNA doesn't demand, it becomes self-sustainable. So when the stress zero, there is no need of oxygen. When there is no need of oxygen, there is no need of heart to function basically. So that's called a kind of samadhi. But now today we talk about, but there are very clearly we can prove, what is first defined, second samadhi defined, third samadhi defined. So everything, so now we have in this long journey, so we have systematized it in the sense that, so that it is no more a taboo what is a mind or what is a food or what is ahara, why vegetarianism or anything. So what is the basis of using indigenous, for example, vis-a-vis hybrid too. And how even the present vegetables, etc., lack certain nutrients because of this. How important to match our stress, the required nutrition for DNA. DNA is our chief executive officer. It is whatever you give, it is it is a peptide factory. It can produce whatever we need, absolutely brilliantly, given by the gods. That is the basis of, so the entire philosophy of yoga is understood. We call DNA as a soul, yeah.
I don't know if Shankaracharya would agree with that.
I mean, because the day the stress is zero, so it goes to its mother. So germ immortality ends in eternal immortality. The germ immortality, the chain will continue. As long as the stress is the driving factor. The day stress is zero, so the germ immortality comes to an end. The DNA actually loses its input of continuing its
survival.
I mean, from the point of the science, I'm explaining it to you.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
But yes, whatever you have delivered today, it is well understood actually by our students. Yeah, very well understood, because this is whether you speak or whether I speak, whether Yajnavalkya speaks or Patanjali speaks, at the end, if it's a true yoga, it is the same comes out. Yes, about the input and output. And at all level, as you said, mind level, physical body level, at the Saptadhatu level, and at so at the mind level, at the physical level, at the lubrication level, at the physical level, at the astral level, or you call subtle level, at the causal level, and basically at the gene level, gene expression level, chitta vritti nirodha he talks about. So, and so yes, those students who join here, who stay in the continue, you will find a lot of changes, transformations in them. Yes, like you have joined there, so both of you.
We all experience.
Yes, so that is the what is important today in the contemporary is the change. The human, if the stress is inevitable, but if we can handle it productively, inflammation is only the way to grow, frankly speaking. If there is no inflammation, cell will die. So a programmed yoga is a method of a programmed inflammation. It is all about the most sophisticated, a programmed inflammation, so that it will maintain your growth, robust growth. A perfect android signaling happens, and that is the way. So at a mental, at physical, at soul level, and so the growth, all these tools are so as given by the yoga we talk about basically. So that's the way. But always, every day I tell them about, all the traditions I talk about. Shivananda, every course I talk about. Vishnudevananda Maharaj, Satyananda Maharaj, to Krishnamacharya, to his tradition, to how much he worried when, frankly speaking, when Iyengar went, how holistic the northern yoga traditions, but how narrowistic the southern yoga traditions, how only asana based. But the other aspect of Krishnamacharya, how it is missed out, So integrating these all together, actually yoga, so becomes completely like a complete, path. People will be very happy, So it is basically to bring at a behavioral changes level, positive attitude, as I said, Vishnudevananda talks about the positive attitude, cultivating of the positivity. From the day when they join, we tell them here, no thumbs down. What your life should be, always thumbs up. Wherever you go, whatever you do, always be positive, and you must express every day your positive message. Let us spread only positivity, then nothing else. Because any negativity, it comes back. Whatever we sow, that's what we reap. So the fundamental principles of the positivity is the most important. Ultimately, a yogi means a complete positive person. So as the input, so the output, yama and. But So you have explained so beautifully, sir. So
It was my privilege,
it is like
thank you.
hearing from you. It's like hearing my masters.
My privilege, thank you.
Yeah, it's very. We feel honored. So you are
Oh,
here.
thank
Just
you.
a minute. So we. This is, this is for you. So actually we give you, these are the same, this is called Sulakshana stone. Actually in Tibet when you go, this is a Sulakshana Shila in Sanskrit it is. It's called Suleiman Hakik. Now the Arab Mughals they have carried, is a most highly. So mana 108 quartz mala ఉంటుంది చూడండి. So it is
like a prayer stone.
So these are that, and so this bowl you can use it. This is pure quartz, 9 mala it is. For you sometimes a short count it is. Very good for you. This is a pure 100% quartz. It's a Himalayan quartz. It is not African imported or someone. All these stones are Himalayan. So this is actually like geode. What is famous? India is famous. Himalayas are famous for this. It's called Aghate. Actually, inside you will find all microstructures, like needle-like structures. It is a seat of consciousness. There are the trillions and millions of the needles in this crystalline structure. It is.
Like a Shiva Linga.
Yes, so it is. So it is one of the in abroad, and this is called tiger eye, basically. So in Tibet, they hang in the front so that
for protection.
so to protection from any wildlife. So this is called. So space element, so which comes from the Himalayan,
also
so
quartz.
the terrains.
I've never seen such a stone. Blue.
So this and
amazing.
Yes, and
Thank you
yes,
so much.
and yes. So I thought, and one this we want to give you, sir.
Please.
This is the Saligrama for you. This is the pure Himalayan. So please come. That's why this one is I caught.
Together.
It is the yes, please. So.
Thank you.
May God bless you, and this you can keep it in this. These are the original, so this comes from 18,000 feet. So this Saligrama comes from, the place and.
From a river, I believe, a special river.
Yeah.
A river. It's a river.
Yeah, Gandaki River. This is the Kali Gandaki River. So that is from where Nepal, Aparmatan, where I went with Sachinanda Saraswati in 1977. So there were 100,000 caves are there. It is the border of China actually. That's from where that river begins. So down the line, after 200 kilometers, Muktinath comes, Muktinath Kshetra. So before that itself, the Kali Gandaki River, the Saligrams, the place, the mountain of Saligram. And it's a rich story of the Shiva, Vishnu and Lakshmi cursing, and the Tulsi, just a few days before we finished that. So this is considered as a Lord Vishnu form. It is also considered the Shiva form, Shiva Parvati in union it is. So that's why in authentic Himalayan means that nature has given, because these stones witnessed it since the time of the Shiva. Actually, that's why everything at that time, when they initiated their sound, so they went into union, holy union, every fossil and everything. So the fossils in Himalayas, one is called conscious. Actually, they are the seabed, but you will see the quartz conch formed. Similarly, these are the natural fossils entered into union, holy union into that actually. The metamorphosis that is called. If you study, these are all 2,500 million years old. These are so. At what time in Himalayan terrain, if we examine about the Shiva, what could be the height? What would be his life? So the other day, Deepavali we celebrate. 1,000 years these demons meditated. So on single stand, like in headstand posture and all. So that is the duration at that time. Like a dinosaur period or much before that.
Different time scale.
Yoga coming from that generation, because when you travel beyond Kamal is called Gompa areas, where Krishnamacharya, where I went to learn yoga and tradition, like Nyingma traditions, who really keep the traditions even today, with the original traditions of Yogachara tradition, yoga. What yoga we normally talk out is very periphery actually. If we go into the deeper, so this comes from. I know this terrain very well, so that's the reason whatever we give, whatever the sources I use is. So to preserve the consciousness, you see, it represents the Himalayan consciousness, the yoga consciousness. They're very powerful, basically. So this is on behalf of our students, on our tradition to you. So
generous.
please take care.
Thank you so much.
Yes, yes,
Good of you.
yes. And yes. So yes, these are all, yes, we have taken for rent, so we will move no time into, this is from Kerala rosewood, original rosewood. So this all, the base
furniture.
is done from, yes, furniture.
Furniture.
Yeah, rosewood is a strong wood, it is basically. These are from Swami Malai, so done by a family, group of the family people. So that maintain. So we feel very honored, sir. So,
Thank you so much.
You want to say any end prayer?
Yes, I would
Yes,
like to.
yes,
I
yes,
have
better. Yes, you are ours, please. So dear students, that's today's interaction. And so I request Dr. Nataraj and his noble couple to bless us with the end prayer.
So we have a traditional prayer, shlokas that we
Yes.
use at all our classes.
Yes, I know, sir.
The Aldamai.
We chant all this.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I
Yes,
heard
yes,
the priest.
yes, yes.
You can sit quietly
Yes.
or follow if you can.
Yes.
Om. 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 Trayambakam yachamahe sugandhim pushtivadanam urvarukme bandhanat mrityo mukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivadanam urvarukme bandhanat mrityo mukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivadanam urvarukme bandhanat mrityo mukshiyamamritat. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashid Dukhabha Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityo ma mritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. It's a universal prayer by Swami Shivananda in English. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto Thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. Thou art Sat Chit Ananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Thou art indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold Thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve Thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember Thee. Let us ever sing Thy glories. Let Thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Once again I salute our Gurus. Om Bolo Sadguru Shivananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Swami Vishnu Devananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity.
Sir, most
Thank you.
welcome, sir. Brilliant, sir.
We really appreciate
You
it.
accepted, sir. It's very nice. So
you.
seeing